by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. We're already having a good time at 6:30 a.m. on a very, very cold morning here in New York City. We don't care. We got a hot show. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer, Chris Carter. This is Nick Ray.
One thing I must address. Yesterday, you didn't know what happened. There was an embarrassing moment, see. I tried to go like this to you. You were looking that way. I ended up having to go to Broussard after being left hanging for a minute. So now
okay, I got you, man.
Not your fault, but screenshotted, sent to me a dozen times.
Oh,
yesterday.
really?
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering why you brought it up.
I'm Kyrie, man. I'm in my mentions. I'm in my feelings.
You
I
are
can't
looking
listen
at your
to
mentions.
I can't. Yeah, man. So we had to fix that. Thank you. Now I feel better.
Do
Good
you
to see
feel
you, Jenna.
better?
Absolutely. I like the sweater.
Thank you very much. I look sophisticated. I'm going to go with that all day today. Plenty to get to.
Better when other people say it about you. And when you say it about yourself.
Say it.
Okay.
Did Magic Johnson give too much control to LeBron James? We'll talk about that. Plus, bad news for Kyler Murray. But we start today's show with the very lopsided Warriors-Celtics game. And not the lopside you may be thinking. To the Bay we go, where the Celtics did an about-face. 30 points from Gordon Hayward, 19 points from Kyrie Irving, and the Celtics won the game. Yes, they beat the Warriors 128-95. Warriors were never quite in this one, trailed by 25 points at halftime, and not a pretty scene for that guy right there, Boogie Cousins. He was hit with a technical after a charge call for standing over Aaron Baines just a little too long. Celtics will take the win. Here's Kyrie on just how important that win was.
Since All-Star break, even before then, we haven't been playing our best brand of basketball. So we want to come out and just put emphasis on both ends of the floor, but especially defensively. Playing here is always tough, so we wanted to come out and just make a statement. We were going to get to a point where we were just going to get tired of, fighting each other, fighting in, the outside world, and it doesn't really matter. So we just want to come out here and just play basketball. This is our sanctuary, and we have to do everything to protect it. We can't let anybody infiltrate this.
If we want to be the team that we want to be come April, you can't continue to just talk about it and expect to be able to flip a switch. At some point, these next 16 games, we gotta show it.
All right, CC, I'll start with you. How'd they do it? How'd the Celtics beat the Warriors and beat them pretty badly?
Right. I mean, I'm surprised that the Celtics were able to put such importance on the game, given that they've played so bad since the All-Star break. Before coming into last night's game, they had one win and had played poorly, had no type of identity. Offensively, what they were doing, the sound bites coming out of the locker room. I mean, Kyrie Irving, like, how many personalities does the guy have?
I know.
I mean, because every single day, his opinion changes. And those interviews are a lot easier to do when you win.
He was in the best mood I've seen him in a long time. On the court, he was interviewed as a players-only broadcast. So Karam Butler, which is you typically get a little more out of these guys, even when they're not in a great spot, when it's a colleague, when it's a guy they've gone
Yes, they have a lot more respect and that they know the telecast is around the players and that they would be a great asset in helping the players in the telecast.
And so Kyrie was in a great mood. I think Karan got a lot out of him. It was a nice interview. If people haven't seen anything, go back online and look at it. But Kyrie also said something after the game that we didn't play there that was interesting, which was the plane ride. So the Celtics went from the East Coast all the way out west. They're going to play all four California teams.
They had a big game Sunday afternoon against Houston, a game they did not look good in.
Absolutely. And so he said that in that long plane ride, he sat and talked to Brad for a while, sat and talked to Danny Ainge for a while, and the team as a whole had time to kind of release some of the tension and to get back on the same page, because just 24 hours ago, Jalen Brown said something I thought very interesting that went under the radar. He called the Celtics environment toxic, which is
a strong word.
It's an interesting word. We've heard that word used by Kevin Durant talking about what the situation is around LeBron James. We have heard, so he said that we have a toxic situation right now, but when you play your best game of the season, and when the way you win is because the guy who has been the unspoken albatross around for your team this year, Gordon Hayward, has what I believe to be his best game as a Celtic, best all-around game, particularly given the competition. That relieves a lot of that tension, because nobody wants to blame Gordon Hayward because they know how good of a guy he is. They know he's coming off the injury, but Gordon Hayward's been a huge problem. But the Celtics are now, and this is a jump out at you number, 18-2. When Gordon Hayward shoots just 50% from the field. 18-2 when Gordon Hayward's 50% or better from the field. That trend continued last night.
But I just want to jump on what you said. One of the other things that Kyrie said, which was interesting, is we weren't having fun on the court. We forgot to do that. We were so busy dealing with the media and the criticism, we forgot to do the one thing that we all love to do, which is just play basketball. And last night, yes, the Warriors played terribly. 22 turnovers. They didn't play well. But the Celtics looked like they were having fun. And we all said that's the way to get away from that toxic environment. Go back to the thing you all do well, which is play basketball.
Yeah, they were all bought into what Brad Stevens. Now, Nick, we talked about over the last several years, Boston has played Golden State tough. Earlier in the season, they had a very good game in Boston that the Celtics lost there late. But this can be about strategy, because they did put Boogie Cousins in the pick and roll, and they did attack him from a strategy standpoint on the offensive end, which we know the Celtics have struggled with that. We know they're going to always be, with Brad Stevens, in a top 10, typically a top 5 defensive team. But to me, it was about that plane ride. It's about you have galvanizing moment as professionals. And that's the thing that's different about working in an office environment than being on a pro sports team. I tell you, man, you live together, basically. You sleep together, you travel together, you eat together, you shower together, you use the bathroom together.
Not always.
And a lot of times, if you don't like people, it's hard to do your job. It's different when you have a normal job where you're working 8, 9 hours. You go home or you get away and you don't travel that much together. But when you're on a professional sports team and you don't like the other people on that team, it becomes hard to do your job. It becomes hard to sacrifice. So whatever they said on that plane ride, it made a huge difference, because that's the really only way you can describe who the Celtics were last night compared to the team that we've seen since the All-Star break.
And Jen, it was from the opening tip. It was 11-0 to start that basketball game.
Yes.
The Warriors never had a lead. We've seen a lot of games where the Warriors maybe start slow. Even if they lose, they make a push, they take a lead, and then they fall back. They never had a lead. It's the worst home loss for this Warriors team since Monte Ellis was on the team. So obviously the worst home loss since Steve Kerr's been the coach. They were down by 35 points at one point. They lost the game by 33. And to your point, over the last 3 years now, so the Celtics, the IT Celtics, last year's Celtics, and this year's Celtics, they're 3-3 against Golden State. And you might say, well, that's better than almost any team in the league. In fact, I think any team in the league except for the Rockets,
yes,
against Golden State. One of the reasons Boston had the buzz that it had going into this year, going into last year when they get Kyrie, is because they have shown an ability to guard Golden State. They have shown an ability, even with when they weren't as talented as they are now, that they can match up with Golden State, that they can throw length at Kevin Durant, that they can throw Marcus Smart at Steph Curry. And the Warriors, and I know we'll talk about it from their angle later on, they missed Klay Thompson last night. You don't have Klay, KD has an off night, all of a sudden you don't have a ton of shooting. That showed up last night.
Yeah, Klay Thompson sitting out with that sore knee. So here's the question I want to ask. This isn't the way the Celtics have been playing since the All-Star break at all. You're not expected to get 30 points out of Gordon Hayward every night. We haven't seen any part of this. But can a win like this galvanize this team? Can it help them sort of push the rest of their momentum into the postseason?
If the Celtics can make up their mind that regardless of what happens next year, regardless of what happens in the summer, we're going to buy into the system we're going to run, and we're going to buy into winning no matter what we have to do. That's the first thing that's got to happen. Whatever they conversate about on the plane, they have to be able to continue that. And who's Gordon Hayward?
Right.
Which one is going to show up? Now, I can't expect him to get 30 on 16 shots. No, I can't expect that. But is he going to be more explosive? Is he going to shoot the ball from deep? Is he going to be a liability athletically on the defensive end? Those are the things that I've seen. How are those things going to change coming down the stretch? The athleticism, I don't see that changing. Can he add another shooter that can, Nick, you mentioned, he's shooting at 50%. They have a ridiculous record. So for me, can he shoot the ball effectively? Because if he gets those minutes and those guys start feeling bad about him getting those minutes, the only way he justified giving him those minutes is he's got to play well.
Right. So to me, the key, can this be a rallying moment for the Celtics? Emotionally, sure, yes. But they are not a good enough team to make the NBA Finals unless they get a version of this Gordon Hayward. Doesn't have to be 37-4 like he was last night, but it's got to be a guy that can regularly give you 20 points. He has only scored more than 25 points. I'm sorry, more than 20 points 4 times all year. That's a huge problem for them. So if he can be a guy they can rely on as a 6th man, then this team is different. I don't know if he can be that guy.
The Celtics made a lot of big plays last night, a lot of outstanding the way they ran their offense. Defensively, they were helping. But when Gordon Hayward made plays and made shots, the body language of the team changed. One time, Kyrie made a great pass to him. He knocks down a 3-pointer, and Kyrie is kind of skipping down the court because they realized that he was a very good basketball player, and what happened to him was unfortunate. If they get the better version of Gordon Hayward, I think the Celtics can get a turn.
I'm glad you pointed out that play just quickly. On that same play, Al Horford's on the bench, and Al Horford's on the bench celebrating like the 13th man typically does, like the guy who's a bench all-star. They are rooting for Gordon because they know they need him and because he's one of the better people on the team.
Go back and listen to or read some of the other post-game comments from some of his teammates who were so excited for him. They're saying he has to keep getting back out there and shooting because if nothing else, it helps his confidence. It may not be another 30-point game, but if they can get something close, they could definitely use it. Take a break. Coming up, talk some Lakers. Did Los Angeles allow LeBron to have a little too much influence on roster moves? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.